Hello, everyone. It's good to see you again. Welcome back to Love Online. I am Bishop Dr. Carla Dunbar. Now, today I'm going to be treating with a very problematic issue, not one that cannot be resolved, and that's why we're going to talk about it today. But before I dive into the topic, please like, subscribe, and share this video. I call this marriage evangelism, and this is how you can help me to save marriages globally. So go ahead, press like, subscribe, and share. I'm sure you know a few persons who could use this video. Now, relationships between married couples and their in-laws can be very, very difficult. I know as couples, you can mitigate disagreements and problems that you have with in-laws by showing honor to them and just building mutual respect. But I also believe that in-laws are to understand the influence that we can have positively or negatively on the marriage of our children, not making demands, learning to respect their children, their families, or son or daughter, and their now newly created family, so that they too can negotiate better extended family relationships. Now, married couples, as I've seen over the years, reports tension. I hear it every day. They report discomfort or just outright conflict with in-laws, especially early in the marriage, or even sometimes after major transitions like having children or moving into another space. Now, as a family therapist, I have seen in-laws tension cause devastating strains on the bond of a couple. So in-law problems are very, very common, and often it includes issues like control, interference, inconvenience, and even the clashing of values and traditions, because right there is a generation gap. Now, if you have struggled with a mother-in-law who offers constant, unsolicited advice, or a father-in-law whose inappropriate comments just gets under your skin and irks you, I want you to know that you are not alone. So let's take a closer look at how in-laws can affect a marriage and what you can do about it to protect your relationship if you're in that space. Now, the Bible, scripture refers or indicates two parallels guidelines for relating to parents after you are married. It says, first, we are to separate from our parents. Therefore, shall a man leave his father and mother and hold fast or cleave to his wife, and they shall become one flesh. That is found in Genesis 2:24. And so God's pattern for marriage involves leaving parents and cleaving, holding on steadfastly to your husband or wife. So the marriage brings a change of allegiance. Before marriage, your allegiance is to parents. After marriage, and I say this to my own kids, allegiance must shift now to your spouse. Pastor Jimmy Evans spoke to this as the first law of marriage, priority. So your spouse now is your number one priority, not your parents or any other family member or relative, not even the children that you bear together, because you can never be one with your children, right? You're only meant to be one with each other. So you love the children, you don't neglect them, but your number one priority in your marriage is your spouse. So when there's a conflict of interest between a spouse and his or her mother-in-law, I use mother-in-laws because that's the predominant parent-in-law that is generally mentioned. And although I have heard of father-in-law one or two times, but that spouse must stand with his or her spouse. And this does not mean that the parent or mother is to be treated unkindly. It just means that she is to know that she's no longer the dominant female in her son's life. I have to know this. I have two sons, right? Or their daughter's life. You cannot be the dominant person. No couple will reach their full potential in their marriage without having this kind of a psychological break from parents. This principle of separation, leave and cleave, it is perhaps one of the most important decision making that husbands and wives must make. And so parent-in-laws, they may have suggestions about many aspects of your married life. However, these can be taken into consideration, but you must make your own decisions as a couple. It is important, very, very important, that you do not allow parents to manipulate, and I say this very strongly, to manipulate you into making a decision on which the two of you, as a husband and wife, are not enthusiastically in agreement with. Right? So when in-laws are criticized, or they are critical, or they are overbearing, then married couples can begin to feel emotionally unsafe in their own relationship. And this happens especially when one partner is unwilling or unsure of how to set the boundaries with their family of origin. So if your spouse struggles to establish boundaries, then you may feel alone. You are going to feel unprotected. You're going to even feel betrayed. And so over time, what happens is that resentment sets in and it builds up as you feel uncared for and you feel unsupported by the person that you choose to marry. And so a healthy marriage often requires that partners differentiate. And this is in therapy. This is a term which is essentially means to develop a clear sense of identity and loyalty in your new family unit. Recognizing that you're now separate from your family of origin. So the truth is, yes, in-laws can break up a marriage. Unfortunately, it shouldn't be so. In-laws can contribute to the breakdown of marriages. Research has shown that conflict with in-laws is one of the leading external stressors in marriage. And estimates also suggest that 1 in 10 marriages end in divorce, partly due to this problem, when it is left unaddressed and ongoing, and criticism and disrespect or interference from the in-law causes partners to feel disconnected, unseen, hurt, and resentful towards each other. And for many couples, the strain becomes a wedge that's a separator, and it separates them emotionally and sometimes even physically. Right? And so we have to check it. So how do we deal with in-laws? First thing, set boundaries and set them early. Let your in-laws know where your limits are. Do it kindly, but do it firmly. This might include how often you see each other. Talk about what topics are off limits or how involved they are supposed to be in your parenting decisions. The earlier you establish boundaries, the less there is for confusion or just breaches of those requests, right? Secondly, present a united front. Just as you do with parenting, you unite so that the children understand the discipline. You do the same thing with your in-laws. Present a united front. It's crucial that you and your spouse are backing up each other. Even if you don't truly agree with the discomfort that is being felt by the in-law, solidarity matters. In-laws respond differently when they sense both partners are on the same page. And this doesn't mean turning against their family, What it means is protecting the marriage. Thirdly, avoid what we call triangulation. Don't use your spouse as a go-between. What you should do instead is aim to speak directly and respectfully to your in-laws when possible. And likewise, don't let your in-laws speak poorly about your spouse to you either. It puts you in the middle and it can erode respect. To the extent that you can prevent it, just do not let matters others come between you and your spouse. And fourth and finally, limit exposure when needed, if it becomes necessary. Because if your in-laws are repeatedly ignoring the boundaries or causing distress, you're allowed to reduce the contact. And this might mean shorter visits, fewer shared holidays like Christmases, Thanksgiving, etc. Or phone calls instead of turning up in person time. You have to protect your space and your marriage. It's not the same thing as being disrespectful. Okay? So you have to do that. Also, learn how to deflect. And this is, I think, a lot for wives. Learn how to deflect. At some point, most of us really like to hear advice or opinions from our in-laws and stuff like that. And it doesn't work for us sometimes. So rather than reacting emotionally, and I often say, don't react. It's a good idea to practice what we call a neutral kind of response. It can be pulled out on these occasions. For instance, you could try, you're listening, you say, oh, that's an interesting idea, or I'll think about it. And if the in-law persists, try a polite conversation ender, like, it's a good idea, but we're going to do it this way, or thanks, but this seems to be working right now, or just something similar to that. It's just important. Now, a word to in-laws, if you are watching this, because I am an in-law myself. Understand this. You have trained your children for this independence since their birth. Remember, you grew them so that they could now go, so that you can enjoy your life without parenting. You taught them how to cook, clean, wash, be good leaders, husband. Now that they're married, it's time to celebrate their independence from your home. You must respect them as equal because they are now able. And this doesn't mean that they will no longer need help from you, but it does mean that you'll have to ask first if they want your help. You understand? Because an unwanted gift is not a gift. It's a burden. Right? And so a good rule for us as parents wanting to advise our married children is that we should give advice only when it is requested. So if your children have not requested your wisdom and you want to share it, ask first. Just ask permission. Would you like for me to share my perspective on that? Giving unsolicited advice to your married children does not build a positive relationship. Don't abandon them, but just don't overburden them. They are not your pension plan. Just be grateful when they give something. Don't manipulate. Don't demand. Don't take sides even. Just allow your new child, to welcome your love and your respect and your wisdom. The truth is, life is just too short to live with broken relationships. We will not always agree with our married children. I have 4, but we can offer respect and we can give them the freedom to make their own decisions. So let's end this tug and war, right? Remember Psalm 23 and verse 5. Neither you nor your marriage is meant to just survive. You are for thriving and for overflowing. Thank you so much for watching. I pray your marriage will be impacted positively. Now, for more tips just like this, remember, register at the Grow Your Marriage Ministry. There are courses for wives only, how to speak so your husband will listen. For husbands only, loving your wife in a Christ-centered way. For couples together, the marriage maintenance, and of course, the sexual proficiency. And if you're single, marriage-minded or not, the Marriage Readiness Intelligence is just for you. My handles are Carla Dunbar Ministries. See you next time.